Welcome back. This is the Fifth Star, and we're gonna be continuing our journey reviewing movies and trying to find that 5-star movie.
Yeah, and when we find a movie that we both give that elusive fifth star, then this podcast will be over. Today, we're talking about Dumb Money.
Dumb Money, Dumb Money.
Dumb Money. It was released 2023, directed by Craig Gillespie.
Yep.
And stop trying to look at my notes.
Which we're both...
And guess what I'm gonna give it.
I mean, your handwriting isn't well, it's not bad, but it's not the easiest for me to read.
Make fun of my handwriting?
It's not the easiest to read from
It's intentional.
this far away.
No. All right, so we're gonna give it write down our score that we gave it.
Yep. And I'm gonna try and not flash the camera this time.
Don't flash the camera like last time.
Wow, I had a moment where I was like, what did I give it again?
Okay. Mine is locked in.
Oh,
I think you just flashed the camera.
Oh, well, I'll just black it out again.
Oh my goodness, not that hard, Jamie.
That's just going to be my thing from now on.
Yeah, you just tell the audience, just tease the audience.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to write down what we think each other gave it.
Yes.
Do you want to start?
I started last time, so you start this time.
Okay, so I think, man, I've really struggled with this one.
For me?
Yeah, for you. But I'm going to guess that you gave it a 3.0.
3.0.
Yep.
Okay, for you, I already know that you've watched this before. And your previous review, so this may be a little bit of a cheat.
Now, I did rewatch it.
But you rewatched it, which means your rating could have changed.
Yes, and we're going to go with my second rating.
Yes, but I'm going to go ahead and say that it stayed the same. 4.0.
Question mark.
Question mark.
Thank you.
That's a horrible question mark.
I need the question mark. All right.
Okay.
So, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So, what was crazy about this movie was that it took place during COVID, and I don't know, it's weird because watching it now feels like COVID happened so long ago, but then as soon as they were like making all the jokes about like, oh, we never see people's face, or like everybody's like sitting far apart, and they had a lot of attention to detail surrounding all of that, and it was really weird because I was like, whoa, yeah, this was only 4 years ago, or not even, like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And it feels like ages already. Like, this is almost nostalgic.
That is kind of crazy.
Not that I want it to happen again, because
Yeah.
I don't want
No.
to go back to that life. But at the same time, I thought that they did a good job establishing that, because I think it was very important that they contextualize it during COVID. They didn't necessarily say this during the movie, but I kept thinking, I don't know if this would have happened had it not been for like everyone being online like all the time.
That was something that was really interesting because everyone was looking for some kind of outlet, some kind of thing. I mean, you can even argue that, things like BLM and stuff might have never happened during COVID, right? And they have a quick shot when they're kind of doing the montage of like the pandemic and stuff. They have like a street that says like Black Lives Matter, and so you kind of remember like, oh yeah, all that happened during that time. Yeah. And we're gonna. I think this is gonna come up a little later too in terms of the theme of the movie, but I kind of wonder like, yeah, is this kind of tied in with the angst of lockdown, oppression, anti-establishment, all that kind of stuff. And so even in that sense, like, could it never have happened another time?
Well, and they like the end of, we're spoiling it again, but like at the end of the movie they even say like now they're always looking at the, what are they called, the traders, free traders,
day traders,
yeah, like they're always
you mean the retail
the hedge
traders?
Funds,
yeah, or looking at the little guys,
the retail traders,
yeah,
before they try and short companies, which had never happened before.
Yeah.
And so it's like the rise of this like Reddit forum, the rise of like community online So I really don't know if it would have happened had it not been for COVID.
Yeah, it is interesting. He does mention in the movie, Seth Rogen's character does, like, the short squeeze kind of thing has been attempted before and it failed, and things like he references like something in the 20s or something, and
Right.
yeah, like I wasn't familiar with those other events, but it does seem like there was something especially unique about this kind of flash in the moment. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I remember it, and I remember thinking it was really funny, and I was also very much like, yeah, stick it to the man, eat the rich.
Oh, okay. So you were
But
kind of following it?
a little bit. I wasn't. I mean, I didn't actually invest anything,
Yeah.
and I just remember being kind of shocked about it because I was one of the people that thought GameStop is dying. So I remember thinking like, oh, this is completely a meme, but also eat the rich. Um, but then I kind of stopped. I kind of lost interest.
Okay. From what I remember, all I remember is like there was something happening where people were rallying off like following a Reddit forum, and so they were rallying up the stock, and it was GameStop. But I didn't even really catch like the whole thing that was driving it. So the whole like stick it to the man, that kind of thing against take down the rich. Like I don't remember that in terms of like when it was unfolding, because I think for me it was just like a passing like blip news thing of like, oh, there's like this big like run up on GameStop. Like I didn't know that like it was to kind of hurt these hedge funds
Right.
and
You just saw it like
to take
spike.
them down. Yeah, that kind of thing. And so
Interesting.
to me, like I didn't really remember like all of this context, so I enjoyed that part of it. I enjoyed the unpacking of like how it was spawned, and Roaring Kitty and his role in all of this, and
Yeah.
like kind of the fallout afterwards. And so I enjoyed how much backstory we got, how much
Yeah.
context we got. I thought it was like
I
super
think
fascinating.
I think it was that was well put together. Especially since like if you don't know anything about the stock market, you kind of need some of that context.
So I was curious about that. So I've done some investing, and I'm kind of familiar with some of these things, but I don't know if you have. And like,
Not really.
okay. So did you find like the movie was a little too like much about the money aspect of things? And so one reason why I kind of thought maybe you might have gone a little lower on this was I know you like Craig Gillespie and the director, but I kind of was like, maybe it's a little too technical, like with the stocks and investing, and so maybe that would have like not kept your interest as much.
I think he really balanced it well. I think
Okay.
he like did a good job of um explaining it, but like explaining it through the characters and like through the scenes.
Mm.
So I felt like I was able to follow it and still enjoy like the character development. So switching gears a little bit to the characters.
Well, I will say though, I watched a quick interview with him like yesterday after I watched the movie, and he said that when they did the initial cuts, they had all of that explanation and exposition of like what's a short versus what's a whatever, and options and all these kinds of things. And he said that like as they screened it, people were kind of getting actually more lost because it was too technical.
Oh yeah.
And they were also getting bored. So they just kept stripping stuff away. And he realized like we actually don't need any of this stuff. Like we just need just enough, but it needs to be driven from the perspective of the characters and the emotional beats and stuff like that. So apparently it worked because
even at the end, like he says in the hearing that like even he doesn't fully understand the market, and that's like a little scary.
Yeah.
Where it's like we don't even totally understand this beast. And I don't know. I felt like that made it feel a little better too, where it's like even if you don't fully grasp everything, even like the experts don't grasp everything. Like it's so complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, I really liked the characters.
Oh, okay.
But there were a couple
So I guess you're gonna give it a high rating.
There were a couple characters that felt like a little weak, and that's probably because too many to really focus on. But I still liked it. Like I don't know who I would have cut. Like I liked America Ferrera's character. Her
nurse.
perspective was interesting. Like, single mom in debt. Um, the college kids, like, that made a lot of sense because they were the whole, like, stick it to the man group. That was also kind of in on the bit. And then
The GameStop employee.
Marco. His was maybe the weakest.
I think I would agree with that.
So I really liked Pete Davidson's character. He was really funny, but maybe there were some of his scenes that could have been cut or shortened. I don't know. Oh my gosh, when he drank the Uber Eats drink, I was like, man, I'm never ordering Uber Eats ever again because that's all I'm gonna be thinking about.
Yeah, even Paul Dano's character goes like, they do like reviews, and he's like, oh, whatever. He like totally dismisses it. Yeah.
But like, how are they gonna know that he like drank from the straw?
Yeah. Or like, how are you gonna know if they ate some fries? Because, if you're like me, you go through a drive-through with your own food and you get the fries, you can't wait till you get home. You gotta have some fries on the way home, right?
And then they won't know.
Yeah.
That it's missing.
Yeah, they're not gonna know they got shortchanged a little on the fries. Yeah.
Can't trust anybody.
So, Pete Davidson, I think Pete Davidson can be a very hit or miss actor.
Yeah.
And comedian.
Yes.
And so I was curious, like, if you liked his performance, if you liked his character. I also really liked him.
I think by the end, you feel, like, more connected to him.
Yeah.
He's so horrible at the beginning, and then by the end, you're like, oh, he's actually kind of sweet.
Yeah. And, like, he actually was really funny.
Yeah.
Like,
I think... He was really funny.
Yeah, I think he actually, like... When he's in the car with Paul Dano and in the backseat with the parents, and then the parents are totally like playing favorites and it's like, oh, like, Mass Mutual is a real job and, not Uber Eats or whatever. And then Pete Davidson, or it's DoorDash, and then Pete Davidson has this great line of like, I'm with DoorDash and I'm a first responder.
I'm a first responder.
Which is so good. And he's like
technically,
Mom.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, like no one uses business cards anymore, which is true also,
Yeah.
And so, like, the fact that he's, like, fighting for legitimacy, but...
I loved at the end, too, when they were doing the hearing and he's like, my mom was a nurse. And he goes, that's you, Mom!
Yeah, that's you, Mom!
That's you, Mom!
Yeah, he was so, he was very endearing in a way. Like, usually, for me, Pete Davidson's just annoying.
Yeah, he honestly always plays the same guy.
Yeah.
Like, and he did kind of play the same guy in this movie, but it worked.
It worked because he felt more like a real person, not just like a caricature, I think.
Well, have you seen King of Staten Island?
I have, and
I feel like he was real in that.
That's true. And so maybe I'm just like... Maybe I just don't like him as a person.
Yeah.
But then when
kind of cringe sometimes.
Yeah, but when he's in like the actual movies, I'm kind of like impressed by like, oh, he's actually a pretty good actor.
He actually is. Yeah.
And even there was another movie he played like this bit character who worked at a shop or something, and he was actually like really good and funny. And so I think he's a guy I want to hate, but I actually kind of like every time I see him. But his character I thought was great, and on a second rewatch, I realized like his character is actually really integral. Because he's the one that comes and kind of is like the emotional support when Paul Dano's kind of having his like questioning himself and all that stuff. He's the one that kind of motivates him and says like, hey, like run with your balls out in the lightning, like he's the one that's kind of like that, like kind of pushes him to be confident, not so like meek and timid.
Not so timid.
Yeah. He gives him the Air Jordans. He also brings a lot of the conflict in terms of the family, where he's like, what are you doing? And he's like telling the parents like...
He's such a youngest child.
Yeah. So he's such an integral part of like the story that kind of moves the plot along at certain points. So not only was he an important character, but he was also funny. He brought, a good dynamic in terms of the sibling dynamic. And it's such a nice moment at the end when...
Yeah.
Buys him a car.
It's really sweet.
Yeah.
And like, okay, and speaking of like his family, I was honestly impressed with Shailene Woodley too.
Oh, yeah.
Because like, I don't think I've seen a few of her other movies, And I don't think she's that good of an actress. But in this one, I was like, you're
It's
actually...
just because of Divergent. Other than
Well,
Divergent,
no.
what has she been bad in?
I mean, I thought she was kind of mediocre in, like, Fault in Our Stars.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Okay.
But Spectacular Now?
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, okay.
I have heard she's good in that. And so I was, like, not expecting her. And then when she, like, shows up, I was like, oh. And I forgot it was her. Like, I totally forgot it was her. By the end of the movie, I was, like, convinced. Like,
that
oh
she's
yeah,
the wife.
that's the wife. Like, and I wasn't even thinking about her acting. And I feel like for me, that shows, like, good acting. Because I'm not, like, thinking about it or worrying about it.
Okay.
So,
wow.
I was impressed with her.
So
maybe I've only seen her bad movies.
So I do like her. The only thing was that she played the exact same role in Ferrari.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Well, don't spoil it.
Okay.
Because I do want to watch that.
Okay, not the exact same role, but she is kind of like that uber supportive, like, female character to the male lead.
Yeah.
Kind of counterpart. But almost even in Ferrari, but also here, almost supportive beyond logic to me. And so that was the one area.
She seemed hesitant to me. She seemed like there were a few moments where I was like, I didn't know if she was gonna be like, you need to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I related to her a lot because, like, my husband wants to do crazy things sometimes, and I want to be supportive, but then I, like, also grapple with, like, I want to be practical too. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
But to me, I think what you're saying makes more sense. But what I saw in her performance was the first time they really get up big, they're at $11 million. $11 million. And they're sitting in the car.
You could see her, though. She was, like, thinking. She was thinking really hard.
I mean, like, yeah, but she's like, okay, just hold. And I'm like, that was too easy. Like,
stick it to the man.
They just had a kid.
Stick it to the man.
They just had a kid, you know, and then when they're at the dinner table, they're up 23 million at that point, and that's when Pete Davidson kind of, like, outs them and stuff like that. And she is fully just committed. I mean, the whole family is like, what are you doing? And whatever. And she's like the one defending him. Yeah. Like, he knows more than, you know, that Wall Street friend, and, you know, like, blah, blah, blah. And she's, like, so, like, confident that, like, he's doing the right thing. There's zero shadow of doubt.
Yeah.
And it's not till the very end where now he's, like, losing his job, the congressional hearing, and, you know, that she starts to waver. But to me, it's kind of like in the beginning, and maybe it's in the rewatch, but I think I felt that in the first one too. It's just like, is it so, like, how, you just had a kid? They're obviously not really well off.
They could have played it up more, like, her doubt. Mm-hmm. They totally could have. But I think that would have taken away some from, like, the main point. And I mean, they did, like, fight and argue and stuff.
But shouldn't Paul Dano have been the one to be like, but remember what we're doing this for? This is our opportunity to, like, lead this movement, you know, and then kind of win her over.
Yeah, he could have done that. But I don't.
But it was almost like she was, like, the one kind of, she's the one that tells him, like, why don't you record a video? You know, like, I mean, it just seems like she's so unquestionably supporting that, like, beyond what a reasonable wife, I think, that has $11 million in the bag, they just need to hit one button. Like, would you have turned down $11 million no matter how much your husband went, like,
oh, I don't know. Like, think about the taxes, though.
Oh, so you're left with $5 million. Oh, gosh. So we're just going to wait till we get to go to the moon. Yeah, go to 40 million so we can give 20 million away in taxes.
I don't know. I think, like, they could have made her maybe push back more, but I didn't think it was necessary. I also think, like,
so you were on board with her character.
Well, and if he had tried to, like, win her over and, like, explain it to her, it would have felt a little teachy, I think. It's
okay.
Like, oh, she doesn't. A little. Yes, mansplaining. It's like, oh, she just doesn't get it.
But he is yeah. Okay. I could see that. I did.
Instead, I think that happened off screen.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about the rest of the cast, because I did think that it was a good cast. So first of all, Paul Dano, what'd you think?
So many good actors in this movie.
Yeah.
Paul Dano, honestly, Dano. I don't know.
I always thought it was Dano.
He's a really good actor, but he is starting, maybe it's because I've watched like so many of his movies now, but he is starting to feel really similar in each role. Like he has a very specific like cadence that he talks at, and it's a little bit difficult now to see him fully immersed into a role. But he still did great. Yeah. I just like definitely felt like it was Paul Dano playing a character.
Yeah. When I first saw it, I kind of felt like, what is up with his performance? Like, why is he being so like the way he was talking? And it felt harder for me to connect to him. He's almost like too unemotional, too reserved, too soft-spoken. Yeah. But then I'm giving benefit of the doubt. I haven't seen the original Roaring Kitty videos, but I'm giving benefit of the doubt that apparently there's like, I mean, hundreds of hours of footage, and like Paul Dano
probably watched all of it. Yeah.
Apparently
I'm not surprised.
And so I think he was literally just copying exactly the cadence, all that. So
I did watch the speech.
Oh, okay.
Like his
the
original speech.
And is that the way he talks?
I think it's similar.
Okay.
It's pretty similar.
So then I guess in that sense, like, I'm going to give him props for that performance. I do think he gave a good performance. The one thing I thought was, like, why did he not have a cat? Like, for someone who loves cats so much, like, how does he not have a cat?
I guess the real guy didn't have one.
But the one that I was a little more on the fence about were, like, the villains. So the big hedge funds guys. So let's start with Seth Rogen. What'd you think of those? Well, two of them being comedians.
They did great.
So you like Seth Rogen right from the get-go?
I mean, I definitely am not used to seeing him in this type of role.
Mm-hmm. But Seth Rogen, when he first started, I mean, the movie opens with him, from what I remember, and I just remember kind of feeling like, I don't know, like he's too much of a joke, like, to be believable. Like, I could never believe that Seth Rogen would actually be a hedge fund manager, you know? Like,
but it's not Seth Rogen.
I know, but he's such a... to me, the casting was a little, like, weird. And I was kind of like, well, part of it is like, yeah, this is a comedy. So a part of it's a biopic, but with a comedic flair to it.
Yeah.
And so I understand that part of it. But... also, like, these are the bad guys, and I could see an argument for, we're going to cast comedians for the rich, bad 1% guys, because, like, at the end of the day, we're clowning them, and so we want them...
I didn't even think about
that. We want them to be, like, laughable. But I also thought, like, does that take away and undercut kind of the victory? Because imagine you had, like, guys playing those, you know, hedge fund managers, like, very straight, like, not comedically, like, they're really seriously, like, under pressure and stressed and all this kind of stuff. I almost feel like that would have been more satisfying to see them go down. But to see Seth Rogen go down and sweat and stuff, I'm kind of like, I
didn't find any of it that funny.
Anyway?
No.
Yeah, so it's like, why even put a comedian in that role? Like,
well, I think that comedians want to do dramatic stuff too. So I feel like he did a good job of, like, being a dramatic character. Okay. Because I'm not used to seeing him in that way. So that's why I thought it was interesting.
So you actually thought he was convincing and he, like, was a believable...
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was believable. Okay. I think the one character that maybe felt a little gimmicky was Sebastian Stan's, the Robin Hood CEO. Yeah. But, he was, like, so obviously, like, a caricature. Yeah. Or a meme of the real guy.
Yeah, I agree.
They were really making fun of him.
Yeah.
But Seth Rogen, I didn't feel like they were really making fun of him. They were just like, here's a rich privileged guy, and he's going down. Yeah. And I did honestly feel a little bad for him, just because, like, he's sort of, like, screwed over his wife a little bit. But...
did he?
I don't know. He tells his wife that it's not a big deal. Yeah. And then, like, the next couple days, it turns out to be a really big deal.
Yeah.
So, like, he sort of reassures his wife, And then, like, the next scene, his wife is like, dude, you should have taken this seriously.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, she was a great character, and I really like how it's the classic, like, the wife, the husband thinks that he's smarter and he knows the most, and the wife might not know all the technical stuff, but she understands exactly what's happening and sees right through everything.
That's kind of how it felt.
Yeah, so that was like multiple points throughout their relationship, and I was like, oh, she was just like perfectly done, that character. Yeah, so I was a little mixed on the villains casting. I think Seth Rogen, it might just be that I've seen him in too many just stupid comedy movies.
I wanted to share one thing that I thought was maybe a weakness of the movie.
Yeah.
And that was that the fun and games, or like the middle, felt like it had a lot of fat on it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It started to feel like it was dragging a little bit because it kept intercutting between all of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some scenes that I thought were just complete repeats. Like, America Ferrera has the same argument with her nurse friend.
Yeah.
I think 2, maybe 3 times. It's like almost the exact same argument of like, you need to sell for your kids. And she's like, no, I'm not gonna. And I swear that scene happened 3 times. And then there were a couple other scenes where it just sort of felt like repetitive. And I was kind of like, I wonder why they're like, are they really trying to like hammer the nail on the head here? Or could they have like cut some of these scenes out and it still be like fine?
Okay. So on the second rewatch, I didn't really feel that the first time.
Okay.
And on the second rewatch, I also didn't feel that way.
Oh.
But it makes me feel like it leads me to the kind of biggest negative for me for the movie.
Oh.
Which is, I feel like at the end of like, they made this whole thing about, it's not about the money, right? It's about the principle of like what we're trying to do. Stick it to the man and all this stuff.
Change the world.
Yeah. But I think all those scenes of, but aren't you going to sell? Aren't you going to, like, you know, this could, I mean, the America Ferrera's character, she had a mortgage she had to pay off. She had kids' braces, right? At one point, she's up $500,000. $500,000. And you're going to tell me it's not about the money?
I think these people actually didn't. I think they're based on real people.
I know, but it's just, to me, it's just so crazy. Like the GameStop employee, he's up at $175K at one point. The student is up like...
We get it, Albert. You wouldn't stick it to the man.
No.
You would have sold.
No, it's not.
You would have been a traitor.
At the end of the day, it's your life and you have student debt and all this stuff. And
no, it's about community. It's about coming together and staying strong.
And so I think if they didn't put in those things of, are you going to sell? Are you going to hold? It would have totally undercut the reality of how it would have felt all along those moments. Because, like, as I've invested, I've dealt with that. Like, you're constantly questioning, do I sell? Do I hold? You know? But I would be doing it out of purely like a profit risk management type thing. These guys were doing that with
the principle.
Being up so much, and they're struggling with the principle. Yeah. But to me, at the end of the day, it's still like, it's still money is money. Like, it is still about the money. It's not only about the money, but it's still about the money. Like, you're telling me you're going to would you give up like $500,000 in the bag just out of some principle of some kind of revolution? And also, like, you could have cashed out half of it, right? Like, you didn't have to sell. Like,
yeah, I probably would have like cashed out a little bit of it.
Or at least enough to break even. So you don't lose your initial. I mean, to me, it was just like kind of almost on the borderline of madness, which is what made this whole movement possible. It took that kind of like frenzy.
Because it really happened.
It did really happen.
It's like the guy at the GameStop guy at the end, he ended up selling like part of his shares.
He did, yeah.
So I feel
the students also initially cashed out when the Wall Street bets get shut down. And that's another part of the movie that I felt like was a little bit...
People were buying into it, though, not because of the money. Like, people were really buying into it because of the, like, statement.
I mean, maybe.
I think that really is it. Like,
but you can't tell me that seeing the numbers go up like that and stuff like that didn't factor in a big part to why people also jumped in. You know, like it is both, I think.
Yeah.
And to me, like it's a little too idealistic to be like, it just seemed like irrational a lot of the times, the choices that they were making. It was like, you guys just seem foolish at this point, you know? But, and even the whole like victory of like they end up winning, you know, or they end up like ultimately making money, you know, it kind of rebounds. And then like Melvin Capital does end up getting shut down. Robinhood ends up having the worst IPO ever.
Right. And so I think like they did what they set out to do.
Yes, but at the end of the day, does it really change anything?
Yeah. It changes everything because like at the end of the movie it says now they are constantly looking at the day traders. I keep forgetting what they're called.
The retail traders.
The retail traders. Yeah. Like people are actually paying attention to that now and they were never paid attention to before.
Yeah.
And I think that does kind of change things.
But did any of the people, maybe except Roy and Kitty, go from being a 99%er to a 1%er?
No, and I don't think that was the goal. The goal was just to bring down the 1% a little bit. Like bring them down a peg.
I think it's like it was meant to be a revolution, right? It was meant to be like, hey, the 99% against the 1%. And this kind of does kind of tap back into the backdrop of maybe a decade before of Occupy Wall Street. I was actually like living in New York during Occupy Wall Street. I actually went to one of those protest like gatherings and whatever. And that was really like a grassroots movement of like, look at all these people getting bailed out and this is unjust, you know, like let's protest. We want real change. But it really didn't change anything, you know, like there's still the big banks, the 1% still is intact. And here too, like the guy gets bailed out. I mean, ultimately like Melvin Capital has to shut down, but you know, like the whole
they got hurt. They got injured.
But the whole Robinhood scam that happened, like where, I mean, what they did was just so crazy how rigged it is.
Oh yeah.
Like you're telling me they're gonna just shut down the, you know, trading and then like turn off this, you know, the Reddit forum and then like put pressure on Robinhood to like not let them buy more. Like that is just crazy.
It's crazy.
Rigging the market. And at the end of the day, the little blurbs, it says like there was no lawsuit, there were no charges. So to me, that's the one part of this movie that kind of frustrates me. Is like it felt really good. It was a fun ride, and it was like good to kind of stick it to the man this one time. But at the end of the day, like the 1% is still the 1%, the 99% is still the 90%.
Oh my gosh! If the GameStop squeeze had destroyed the 1%, then there would be a million movies about it.
But that's what it should have been. That's what they were trying to do. That's the point, isn't it?
No, they weren't trying to. They were not trying to destroy the 1%. They were just trying to like
screw this
one. Well, they were trying to make a statement, and that's how I felt. They were not trying to like destroy them because that would have been impossible.
That's what's frustrating.
It is.
It makes it feel futile. Like we're never gonna be able to.
But all these other people did win because these few people lost. So I liked it.
Yeah,
it was good.
Okay.
So should we go ahead and
so
reveal?
Now I'm gonna take back my 3.0. I'm guessing I'm almost even thinking you're like at a 4.5.
I'm like scared that you're a 3.5 now. Just like, did you change just for the sake of this?
No. I would never do that. For me, a rating is, I respect a rating. It's never going to be for any other ulterior motive other than a genuine rating.
Should we do mine first?
Let's do mine.
Okay.
Because you knew my score. So I had
4.0,
initially given it a 4.0, and she guessed that's what I would stick with, and I did stick with it.
You are true to your word.
I was even on the initial watch, I was between a 4.0 and a 3.5.
Okay.
And on the rewatch, I was a little, because, you know, everything, I already know what's going to happen. So I was kind of like not as invested, like the suspense wasn't really there. But I really appreciated how well the story was told. A lot of information. He really gives you a good sense of everything, like as a biopic, as a historical kind of thing. But it was done with fun and style. which I love
That's
about
true.
Greg Gillespie. Like, even with I, Tonya, it could have been told just very straightforward, but it was
and
done.
Tanya isn't my top 10, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I mean, it's not a 5.0 for me, but might be a 4.5. I mean, he brings something a nice style and fun energy to the way he tells biopics, and I love that about him. And I think this is a hit for me with that part of it. But I do have that little bit of a. It ultimately feels a little like kind of futile.
Yeah.
But it still happened.
Yeah.
He unpacked it really well.
Yeah.
Super well done. The cast was great. So I'm sticking with a 4.0.
All right. So you guessed a 3 for me.
Man.
And it was...
Oh.
a 3.5.
Okay. The way you were talking about it, I thought you were going to be like a 4.5.
I honestly feel like I should raise it to a 4.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't...
You're sort of convincing me.
Oh, well, yeah?
My initial thing was like, oh, it's got to be a 3.5 because it didn't quite, like, because I felt like the middle had so much fat.
Okay.
And because I felt like a little bored and it dragged a little in the middle.
Got it.
That, I don't know, that's kind of why I bumped it down.
Okay.
I was actually thinking during the middle part, this is going to be a 3. I was thinking that. I was like, this is going to be a 3.
It had gone down.
I think that's going to be my final score. I'm a little disappointed. But then I really liked the last act.
Yeah.
Like the hearings and then like his speech and then, all the captions or whatever. And so I was like, okay, it's 3.5. It's a 3.5. But now I'm like, maybe it is a 4. Maybe it's worthy of 4.
Because, to story structure, like, the end of the first act is a very memorable, like, so he does initial investment, all that kind of exposition gets set up, but then it's when the Wall Street Bets memes and Diamond Hands, all that kind of stuff happens, and then it becomes like, oh, this is about something bigger. So that's the end, kind of the plot point, end of Act 1 into Act 2, which is great. And then the end of Act 2 into Act 3 is when Wall Street Bets get shut down.
Yes.
That happens, the Robin Hood buying.
And there's a lot of tension.
Yeah. That last act is great. So this
great.
is a great lesson, and you have to watch a movie till the end, because it might surprise you.
Maybe I should raise it.
What the last thing before we finish, I would say, is the reason why I thought you might be a 3.0 is I thought that you would feel like I did about these people who have this much money in the bag. I can't believe that they would just let it go, and I thought that would kind of frustrate you. But I'm surprised that the principle, like you added the principle, like really landed with you. This whole like kind of.
I don't love money. I'm afraid of money.
Yeah.
That's why I don't spend money. I'm afraid of it.
But if you had that much money, the fact that you would let it ride,
that's so much
out of
responsibility.
principle.
Are you kidding?
That
would be so much responsibility to suddenly go.
So you're afraid to have that much money?
Yeah, I am. I actually am.
Nice. All right. Well, I missed again. You're 2 for 2 on my guesses.
2 for 2. Oh, one other thing I'll say.
Yeah.
I have seen The Big Short, and this movie was similar in many ways to The Big Short. This movie was way easier to follow. That's the last thing I'll say.
Okay. I don't remember.
Big Short was really confusing for me.
Okay. I don't remember the details of that, but I do remember liking The Big Short more. So
that's fair. It was really confusing for me. Maybe I need to rewatch it.
Okay.
But
all right.
I thought he did a good job of not making it confusing.
Well, yeah. That's us on The Dumb Money on the 5th star.
The Dumb Money. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you later.
Yeah. Follow us on YouTube.
And
Spotify.
If you have any ideas for movies that you think we might like, that we might give 5-star, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. And let us know if you agree, disagree with any of our takes. And we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.